Welcome to another TV trivia quiz video on Patreon. This is Tim.
And this is Paul, finally wearing the right t-shirt to a DC event. Not wearing Marvel this time. Or Star Wars, which is also Marvel.
So it's a mishmash of questions this time, and Paul's going to take the first one.
Yeah, was still very much on the subject of 60s and 70s sitcoms. God help us all.
Yeah, that's where all mine come down.
But this is one I came across completely by accident and simply had to ask you because you may know
Okay.
because you're more familiar with all of the shows I'm going to name than I am, I believe. So, like Billy May, who, by the way, was also responsible for the scoring of the Dick Tracy pilot that we talked about in a recent episode, Neal Hefti was a jazz trumpeter as well as a composer. And he was also responsible for more than one television theme, not just the Batman theme, but he was also responsible for composing the theme of one of the following four 60s and 70s television shows.
Okay.
Letter A, The Munsters. Letter B, Get Smart. Letter C, The Addams Family. Letter D, The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple.
Yes, and it's because you're so familiar with the show. I'm sure that you knew that.
Well, and
you've watched reruns of The Odd Couple, haven't you?
Well, 40 years ago.
Oh, okay. I thought that was one of the shows that you had been keeping up with on DVD.
But we talked about this on the podcast a long time ago.
Ah, okay.
Because remember, on one of those Hefty albums, there's a song that sounds very similar to the Odd Couple theme.
Right.
Thing.
Yes. If only he'd been responsible for the hefty, wimpy from the old Hefty commercials, the garbage bag commercials. Okay, well, I thought that would be way too easy, but it was way too easy for a reason that I should have known. And as usual, I have, most of my mind is filled with like regular everyday information. And then there's a big blank hole where our own podcast lives. Apparently they're repressed memories. I don't know. But...
Okay, so my questions. First one is regarding Get Smart.
One of the shows I've already mentioned. How about that?
Yeah, and as I'm watching it, I'm in season 3 now, and every once in a while I see an episode that I'm sure I never saw before, although sometimes I've looked in my old diaries and found that I actually did see it and I 100% forgot it. But season 3, episode 7, one of our olives is missing, was one that I did not recall ever seeing.
Okay.
Max is supposed to find an olive with a transmitter in it, but it's swallowed by a cowgirl named Annie Ozark, and Max has to protect her from chaos. Which big-time actress played Annie Ozark? A. Betty White. B. Barbara Bain. C. Carol Burnett. D. Phyllis Diller.
I'm going to take a wild stab and guess Carol Burnett.
That's right.
How about that? Wow.
Yeah, because I was
No,
like, I'm sure I would have remembered an episode with Carol Burnett in it. That's why I'm pretty sure I never saw it.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, Barbara Bain seemed too obvious because she showed up in lots of stuff in the 60s. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have season 3 yet. I know I have seasons 1 and 2 on DVD. Just gathering dust in my gigantic crypt of shows and movies I still gotta watch.
And comic books you still gotta read.
Yeah, I just gave up on those. I'll just leave them for posterity.
Yeah. Okay, next. This is kind of a lengthy one.
Okay.
The first couple to share a bed on an American TV show were Johnny and Mary Kay Stearns on Mary Kay and Johnny, a 15-minute live sitcom broadcast in the late 1940s. Have you heard about that?
I have heard about this, and I've heard about it, kind of busting the myth of what the supposed actual, first couple to sleep in the same bed was on a television show.
Yeah, and apparently not even the kinescopes survive, so you cannot watch any of this at all. It's just gone.
So how do we know that this was?
That's a very good
the
question.
case?
I guess I don't know,
Scripts, treatments,
stills, something.
news stories, probably news stories. I mean, I'll bet it was notable enough in 1949 that even though it wasn't broadcast very widely, because only a small fraction of the U.S. population actually had a television set in their homes at that time.
Yeah, or a tower nearby that they could have picked up anything from.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was radio, sending the signals. But in any event, it's hard to imagine how we would get a reliable source of that information.
Yeah, I don't know how we know that, but somehow I guess we know that. Anyway, as TV became more widespread, networks became squeamish about showing a couple sharing a bed, even if they were married both on the show and in real life. Most famously, Ricky and Lucy on I Love Lucy. Although Ozzie and Harriet got away with it in the late 50s. They were also married both on the show and in real life.
Mm-hmm.
This may be due to different TV networks or different production companies having different tolerances for it. There are scattered examples of couples sharing a bed on TV in the decade before Mike and Carol Brady. Which of the following TV couples shared a bed on screen sooner? So not first, but sooner of the four couples.
Okay. You mean the soonest before Rob and Laura? No, not Rob and Laura Petrie. Before the Brady Bunch.
Well, just before each other. They're all before the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
But none of them are like the first ever, because that was Mary Kay and Johnny. But which is the first of these four?
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And Rob and Laura Petrie, by the way, did sleep in separate beds, famously. Yep. That's where the existential question, where the heck did Little Richie come from?
Yeah.
Is it Richie? No. Yes, I guess that's right.
Okay. A, Oliver and Lisa on Green Acres. B, Lily and Herman Munster. C, Darren and Samantha on Bewitched. D, Dick and Paula Hollister on He and She.
I'm going to go with the Munsters here.
No, actually it was C, Darren and Samantha.
Okay.
First seen October 1st, 1964. I think we forget that Bewitched started that early, because I think maybe the black and white ones were not in syndication. Because I know that was the case with Petticoat Junction, because there was a drive to show color shows once people had color TVs, or they were trying to get people to buy color TVs. And
and that automatically devalued black and white seasons of series that eventually went color for a lot of markets.
Yeah. So, I don't think I've ever seen those early seasons of Bewitched.
No, I'm sure I haven't.
So Bewitched aired on ABC, which seems to have been more accepting of couples in bed on screen in general.
Well, they were number 3, so they had to try harder for many, many years once they jumped into the fray.
On CBS at the time, as we said, Rob and Laura Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke Show were still having much less fun in their twin beds. And the same for Thurston and Lovey Howell, starting in 1964 on Gilligan's Island.
Yes, they had separate hammocks.
I think they actually have bamboo beds.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Watching some of it.
Yes, because the class structure just, was lifted wholesale from the mainland and dropped onto Gilligan's Island.
Right. But a few weeks after the Bewitched example, Herman and Lily appeared on CBS in bed together. Perhaps because they weren't normal humans, it was okay.
That was my thought, yeah.
Still, a year later, Oliver and Lisa were on CBS sharing a bed. And He and She was on CBS 2 years after that, in 1967. So it seems like CBS was accepting it by the mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't find any NBC examples. I don't know what was going on over there.
Dogs and cats living together, as Bill Murray would say.
They were
Mass
busy.
pandemonium.
They were busy asking for a fourth season of Batman. Supposedly.
Scare quotes.
Okay. Question. My third question is about Green Acres, which I've been watching the first season of lately. Pat Buttram had a specific real person in mind when he played Mr. Haney, who's always trying to make a buck off of Oliver. Who did he base the character on? A. P.T. Barnum. B. Charles Ponzi of Ponzi Scheme fame. C. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's manager. Or D. Ron Popeil.
Oh, P.T. Barnum.
Nope. Colonel Tom
really?
Parker.
No kidding. How about that?
Because he had actually met Parker on a movie set once. And so that gave him the idea to play Mr. Haney as Colonel Tom Parker.
That's really interesting. How about that? I never really. I mean, I know that Colonel Tom was something of a huckster.
Well, and he had worked as a carnival barker at times.
Okay. So there is a little crossover between P.T. Barnum's profession and Colonel Tom Parker's profession. Mm-hmm. Got it. Very interesting.
Okay, finally, and you might know this, although I don't know how recently you've watched Gilligan's Island.
In my head, it goes on in an endless loop. The little monkey, he's safe. I see a ship.
Loomis a Goomus.
Plate thrown in the air, explodes.
Anyway, the Gilligan's Island theme in the first season was recorded by the Wellingtons. The three-piece band, together with Les Brown Jr., appeared on the show in season 2 as a Beatle-esque rock band. What was the name of the band? A, the Coconuts. B, the Bamboo Bongos. C, the Mosquitoes. D, the Hollywood Four.
The Mosquitoes.
That's right.
Had to be. Beatles, monkeys.
Yeah, mosquitoes, yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that rang a bell instantly. So yes, I guess that large portion of my right brain that's filled with Gilligan's Island trivia is totally on target. It's right there ready for anything. Any trivia that you can throw at it. It'll come up with it, at least if it hears the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah, if I didn't give you any choices, maybe you couldn't come up with it. But
yeah, this would be the longest, most silent of all our videos so far.
Anyway, so that's the trivia for this time. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, so thanks for watching.
Right. We have a good time with the trivia, so you don't have to.